Hello everyone! Let's talk about my newest pattern, the Snow Fox. It's kind of a revamp of an older pattern, much improved, and I'm actually doing a video for this particular belly gusset. It's a bit more fiddly than the Chibi Fox, so it warrants its own video. I already did one side for the tutorial photos, and because when I'm creating a pattern tutorial, there's a few different ways you could put the gusset and inner legs into the body. But I have to think about what way is easiest to showcase and explain for users all over the world. And I gotta be honest, up until the last minute I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to do it. The part that you might be here for is this thigh seam here. There should be timestamps below and you can skip ahead if you need to. Long story short is that the line here that's normally where you sew, you're going to tape up and around it instead. It's easier than it sounds. At this point you should have your front leg sewn into the body, and on either side you should have these little flappy bits flying free. It's going to be a bit annoying showing the belly gusset here where it's half done, but I was really short on time this month and I couldn't make two separate bodies. If we quickly compare the paper pattern, hopefully you can see how it's supposed to look when it's laid flat. So for the inner front leg, instead of starting at the ends, we're starting at these markers and leaving these ends free. Then for the back leg, we start here at this marker, and this time go all the way to the end. First, let's pre-clip the seams. Hopefully you can see that I clip short of the sewing line. You don't want to cut into it, just close enough to let the seam open out. And that makes the curved seams easier to pin and sew. Starting at these notches, just pin along the inner armpit. Obligatory badly angled sewing shot. And that's the front inner leg attached, with these two dealies either side. Now for the back leg, start here and pin all the way to the back tip. Clip the seams again just like last time. Basically just repeat the process for all four legs. Now the inner legs are attached, it's time to add the gusset to the body. Starting from the top of the neck and working our way back to the butt. The first part is pretty simple, it's the top long line of the gusset and the front of the chest. Pin all the way down there and sew that straightish line. Now the front of the chest is on and we come down to the front leg and this open triangle. The inner leg here has the extra triangle shape that's going to fit inside. Remove some bulk from the seam allowance, and then bring the inner leg around to pin. The tip of the inner leg pins up in the corner where the body meets the front leg. Now the extra front leg on the inner leg is attached, forming an armpit. The next part is the front seam of the front legs, and that should be very easy. The front is completely done. Moving on to the back of the leg, we're going kind of in a zigzag along the seam, going down, back up, down, and now we're going to head back up from the heel, up to the top of the leg. Then that last flappy bit will go back down along the tummy. Pin up the back of the leg and pretend you watch me sew this seam because I don't have a better transition idea. The last part of the front leg is the inner leg to tummy. Instead of the body laying flat, fold the shoulder seam over and that will lay everything correctly for the seam so that you're not bunching fabric up when you start to sew. That's the front leg done. You can hopefully see how this shape pushes outwards to create a more obvious shoulder joint on the body. The next seam is the tummy, which is super easy, straight along. With the tummy seam done, we're at the back leg, and probably the most hard bit to explain. What we're going to do as we get too close to the edge of the fabric to follow the sew line is we're going to tape it in to sew around it. Sew up to the apex of the hip and down to rejoin the sew line once there's enough space. I'm going to baste this as that's just way easier to control. We'll start here at the inner leg and tummy and work up the leg. Here is where I start to taper off from the sewing line and into a new line. You can go further out than I do. Cuddle fabrics like Minky don't fray, so you don't need to worry about that. And hand sewing like this can help you avoid skipping stitches over the edge. My basting is more of a back stitch here because I want to be super precise. I had thought about separating the back leg similar to how the front one is done, as this would negate the seam allowance issue. But it was a bit harder to figure out a natural seam placement, so here we are. So while I'm pinning and sewing this seam, how's your 2026 going? I'm currently moving house and the new place needs plastering and flooring and concreting and I'm exhausted. But I am hoping my new sewing room will improve my work simply by being in a better room. I don't bother basting the front leg seam, I just pin where I want my placement to be. With the first half of that upper thigh done, and if I pin with the outer leg on the top, it's going to be easier to follow without basting. You can baste it if you want though. And that's honestly the hardest part done. You'll want to check those seams carefully for any bunching or gaps. If you want to pop some glue on there just for the 110% safety, I'm not going to judge. This last part now is super duper easy. You just want to take this back leg and go up from the heel to the hocks and up to this marker on the butt. That marker lines up with the seam where the leg meets the gusset. And then the last triangle on the gusset goes up to the seam down the back of the body to close up the butt. Now only the butt is left open. You just want to match up the top of the triangle with the back of the spine. You can do one half at a time or both in one go. Okay, we have a butt. We have 4 legs, a nice chunky pair of shoulders and a back. The next step is to add the bottoms of the feet, which is part of another video with another plush as a model, and you're nearly done with the body. This pattern was December 2025's reward for my Ko-fi members. It's now available in my Ko-fi shop to purchase. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye!